Our group was in charge of simplicity, and when we first started talking about it, we liked some of the ideas related to exposing what's going on in the house, revealing the system, revealing where things even came from, which is where in our first charrette portion we talked about maybe there's labels, maybe there's another way of graphically communicating in that house. You know, not only what the product is, what it's made out of, but where it came from, you know, what kind of precedent is based on as well. In the second charrette, we were talking about that maybe this idea of simplicity and the idea of revealing requires a little bit more clarity between these parts. So we also worked on, and Jeff worked on as well, this idea of a series of ways of diagramming that would not only represent, you know, the public versus private, or the usable space versus non-usable space, or mechanical versus non-mechanical space, that it could be all of the above. You know, that this one diagram expresses what happens with mechanical, expresses what happens with furniture, what happens with the space. So, you know, we didn't really choose one, we went through a series of options. Where in this one it's more of the bifurcated model, that there's two portions. One that houses the mechanical and is also sort of this heavy, like, living space. Maybe pieces slide out, and this other portion is left more open, that maybe you store your furniture in that piece or something like that. The other idea was that maybe there are these objects, and that's sort of the core or the heavier piece. That, you know, if you have the mechanical in here, it also could be placed anywhere to define the space. And an offshoot of this idea was that, you know, it doesn't have to be one piece, it could be a whole series of them that separates the functions out a little bit more. You know, instead of just saying the core is the mechanical space, what if one piece relates to water and one piece relates to, you know, some other feature, and you sort of link them back. And at the same time, in both of these spaces can serve to define the space left over. You know, depending on where you place this, you're saying that there are two spaces, or how you arrange these, you're saying there's a series of spaces in between these mechanical or these types of functional spaces. So the other two, this one was sort of the idea that maybe this kind of mechanical or private or piece could be in a plinth below the house or in the ceiling incorporated into that, but then that would sort of leave this whole piece open for interpretation. And finally, this one was where it's sort of incorporated into the envelope, and maybe it's sort of distributed into the system, you know, mechanical, electrical, all incorporated. And then you can even take it another level, that furniture and other elements kind of come out of this thickening of the envelope. In addition to that, you know, we were thinking, how will shipping and structure affect all this, and sort of trying to diagram and very clearly define the two pieces. So, you know, there were several options that Jeff had mentioned in his presentation before, but stacking is sort of not allowed. That maybe it's shipped in one cohesive piece, or that there's two pieces or three pieces. And that could even relate to the structure, where maybe going along with this envelope being sort of this heavy piece or containing many functions, that, you know, the structure is also contained in that piece, and that's sort of this one diagram that describes the house altogether. Or maybe it's more a frame, and then in that case, maybe this is more of the way that where there's several pieces. In this idea that frame structures kind of require a series of points of support. In that case, you know, that's sort of the description of the structure, but then the way that these spaces of mechanical usages are interspersed might be reflective of that dispersion or multi-point support in the house. And finally, maybe there's a hybrid where there's two pieces involved.
Yeah, well, some of these, the idea of having cores or having things interspersed throughout came from the idea of how integrated it is into the whole system, and whether we're really, I mean, maybe whether we're creating something entirely new, completely integrated, or if we're actually using some systems that people could go through and look at and even think about incorporating into an existing house, which I don't know if that would, I'm not sure what the specifications of the competition are, but I think that that might have a nice impact in our education part of things, just giving people options they could actually use.
Yeah, it might be sort of a spectrum addressing our options, where this sort of multi-point piece could be something packaged, and you could say that this is a piece that could be incorporated in another house in some other way. That's water filtration piece or something. But, you know, something like this where it's so incorporated into the envelope means that it's a little bit less.
People will go through it and they'll be really amazed, but then they'll have no idea how to do anything with that in their own house. And most people aren't going to be able to afford to build anything like the really incorporated things for, I don't know how many years.
You want to just talk about the simplicity of an idea?
Oh, that portion. Should I get to the shoe?
Yeah, the shoe is a good example.
I love the shoe example. On a similar note, the idea of simplicity could be carried on. You know, we went through this whole series of box diagrams, but maybe, you know, this is sort of the idea, and you can sort of interpret other pieces to sort of transfer onto this box. So what if our house is a whale, or a tree, or jewelry, or even a shoe? That, you know, you start out with this sort of clarity in defining these systems and how they're incorporated into the structure of the house or into the mechanical, but then, you know, you might kind of take it in a Venturi-esque way that you're calling this box a duck or a shoe, or, you know, you start taking on this one idea and sort of making that into your house as well. Am I sort of...
I think so. I didn't quite fully.
Well, that was our last part of it.
Well, I think the idea is that with any sort of certain idea, it's something that everybody who's part of the team can sort of plug into as part of a core, you know, goal or something. And that simplicity deals with there actually being that idea that is helpful in generating enthusiasm for progress as well.